So Sarah, welcome. And the 2026 Winter Olympics kick off today. So what should viewers look forward to in the opening ceremony?
Well, that's this evening, and I'm feeling it already. You know, I'm getting ready to watch it myself and all those old memories coming back. But it's always a huge show. Even though some of the events have already started, it symbolises the start of the Olympic Games. It's a chance for the host nation to put on a huge show on the world stage, and for the athletes to be announced into the stadium as official Olympians. Mm-hmm. So there's going to be some big performers. We have Mariah Carey this year and Andrea Bocelli, of course, which will be incredible.
Yeah. And for someone who knows nothing about sports here, Sarah, you could walk us through it and summarize which are the events that are a must-watch and who are the athletes to keep an eye on this year?
Well, we have a Saudi athlete in cross-country skiing for the first time, so very, very exciting. Rakan Al-Azira, so we need to look out for him, of course. And then there's always the superstars of the events. So we have Lindsey Vonn, who has a huge story going on at the moment. So an Olympic gold medalist in skiing, and she has taken a 6-year break where she'd retired, and then she's come back recently, and on Friday she took a fall and she ruptured her ACL, which is an injury that can take months and months to recover from. So she did say that she wasn't going to compete, and then I've been watching in her Instagram the last few days. She's been preparing and she's been training and getting ready to perform, and then she officially did a test run today, so she's going to compete. So that is that's one to watch.
Well, let's talk a bit more about Lindsey Vonn, right? Because she's making most of the headlines today for the Winter Olympics. She's competing despite this ruptured ACL. So as an Olympian, how serious is this, and how does this affect her chances of winning? She said, as long as there's chance, there's hope.
Of course, and you will never back out until that very last moment. So I was unsure when we first got this news whether she was just being hopeful that maybe there was a chance that she could go back on. But she has a leg brace. Like I said, she has been training. She's done this test run. So she is going to compete. Whether she can compete at her best and whether she can last for the entirety of the Games, because she does 3 different events, is another matter. But fingers crossed for her, because what a warrior.
That's right, because she has a history, you mentioned it, of retiring, returning, winning again, now this rupture. So as an Olympian yourself, how does this moment actually define greatness in sports and perseverance?
Well, that's exactly it. That is the Olympic spirit right there in a nutshell, because you will never give up. This has been your whole life, and you've been preparing for this event forever. So like I said, you won't quit until, Fat Lady sings.
Now into politics. Politics and sports often collide. They shouldn't, right,
Yeah.
Sarah? But what's the latest with ICE agents? I was pretty shocked with this. ICE agents attending the Olympic Games. This actually caused an uproar in Italy. So will they stay a bit more low profile?
I think it has to be. So I think they're there for security reasons. But I think it's not something that you will see or feel on the ground. And I obviously will always look at these things from an athlete perspective. And it's something that the athletes, I'm sure, won't have to think about or deal with. My first Olympics was in Salt Lake City in America very soon after 9/11. It was just a few months after. And we were considered as Team GB high risk. So we saw a lot of, we had armed guards behind our rooms where we slept, and we had police escorts everywhere that we went. But really, which is crazy, but it really didn't even register. We're focused so hard on what we're doing and competing and staying in the zone that it kind of goes a little bit over your head.
Yeah, so it's important to keep at least the sports people calm, right? So
exactly.
Despite Russia now and Belarus also being banned from competing as national teams at the 2026 Winter Olympics, we all know why. But some athletes are still actually qualifying as individual neutral athletes, no flags, anthems, or uniforms. So why has the Olympic Committee taken this approach?
Well, if the athlete doesn't have strong political views, these athletes have still been training their entire lives for this. And, you don't know what their views are, or if they do or don't agree with things that are going on. So it seems very unfair to take that away from the individuals and from the athletes. So there are Russian athletes who can compete under neutral and just individual athletes.
Let's talk about crotchgate, Sarah.
Wow.
There's reports that claim that ski jumpers are using unusual methods before their suit measurement. So how seriously should we actually take these claims?
Well, I don't know if this is true or not. I feel like you should explain that a little bit, but don't leave it to me to explain what's actually happening.
I'll explain a little. So this comes from German newspaper Bild that reported that jumpers were injecting their genitals with hyaluronic acid before being measured for their suits. For what reason? I don't know why. Maybe you can explain a bit more.
Yeah, so I can explain that bit.
The technicality, at least.
Yeah, well, there's so much that goes into the aerodynamics. And even just a small increase in surface area can increase the glide time in the air. So, they're looking for any margin that they can get to increase their flight time. But it's ultimately still cheating. It's not doping. Yeah, it's not doping. It's a medical thing and you're being injected, but it's not doping. But it's still cheating just because it's not on the rules, because who would have thought of this? Just because there's not already a rule for it doesn't mean that it's not cheating, and it's completely unethical. The athletes didn't come up with this idea themselves. Somebody has suggested that this happens and they do it, which I think is unfair to put on athletes.
They're not going to say it. It's aesthetic treatment now. So now on to the next. What's one thing about life in the Olympic Village that our viewers at home never see?
I think it's the feeling. I think it's the atmosphere, because if you think how much one person's energy in a room can change how everybody feels, and I've never felt such a mix of energy in one place, because you've got people feeling all kinds of different things, but some people are super focused, some people want to enjoy the experience, and there's so much going on and there's so much fanfare that I think there's this huge sort of crossover in how everybody is feeling, and some people are still ready to compete and some people have finished competing. So yeah, it's a very strange and surreal thing to try and explain, really, but that feeling of it that I don't think anybody else understands unless they've been in there.
A mix of energies colliding. Maybe some love stories coming out of the Olympic Village.
Everybody always wants to know that bit, that goss, don't they?
Yeah. Well, Sarah Lindsay, thank you so much for joining us today and for your perspective on the Met.
Thank you.